Hey everyone, welcome to today's stream. And this is going to be a really laid back, real casual one. We might watch a couple videos, we might not. I have a bunch of hot lists or hot takes for today's stream, but this is also a BYO show. So, if you guys have some hot takes that you wanna discuss, you wanna hash out, put them in the chats. We'll talk about them. Let's see. Yeah, new PP Little video dropped today. Really stoked on that one. Lindsay and I wrote, basically did the whole thing together. It was really fun. So yeah, so there's like a whole bunch of new like different stuff on it that you guys appreciated. A lot of that's because of Lindsay. I just wanted to give her a shout out. Are you going to get little alpha video game characters? PP Little alpha video game. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I have something cool for PP Little next month. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but it's gonna be something cool. Why do I have my phone in my hand? Right, because the hot list, the hot takes. Yeah, by the way, I don't know if the numbers of people is like updating right, but I see a couple of people in the chat, only one person on my counter here. So again, I'm just gonna reiterate, um, you know, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and just fix this right now. Let's see. Give me just a second here. Can I? Maybe I have to do it in the edit. No. Okay. Whatever. So yeah, this is also a BYO hot take episode. So if you got a hot take Blackwing or Dio, please feel free to bring them up. So let's go ahead and get started here, and feel free to say whatever you want about this one in the comments and stuff. There should be like a kind of sort of fun fun exchange. Okay, so let's start with a big one. Let's start with a foundational one. Okay. um I don't buy the idea that like art can be objectively criticized as good or bad, right? But I do believe there are objectively good critics and objectively bad critics of art, right? And I think that it's not so much like about the what your opinions are, but what informs them, right? Like first, like a good example is let's take a really good example of a really bad film critic, and I want to talk about Armand White here. Let me look him up on Rotten Tomatoes because Armand Wright is known for just being an absolute contrarian about absolutely um absolutely fucking everything. Like he would like shit talk on every like universally beloved movie of every movie that came out, but like would give like 10 out of 10 scores to Transformers and all that shit. Like he's a huge Michael Bay fan, and like there's merits to Michael Bay. Like I don't love every Michael Bay movie. It's been a while since I've seen a Michael Bay movie because like he sort of lost me on on all that time he spent on the Transformers movies. But like I think there is things to appreciate about him and to celebrate, but at the same time, like to say that Transformers 4 is better than fucking what There Will Be Blood, like that's that's just ridiculous. Is very interesting. It has an Oscar and a red. Did it does it have an Oscars for a technical category? I'd imagine, because I know like one thing that is undeniable about those movies that they are technically really damn good. The Rock, you know which Michael Bay movie is really underrated? The Island. That's Michael Bay punching above his weight there with like the sort of script that he got. And okay, yeah, no, that makes sense, Dio. But like, yeah, that's him punching above his weight there in terms of the script quality. And I think like, Michael Bay is like a really intense guy. And you can sort of see that like in the sort of performances that he gets from his actors, because it's hard to say that like I mean, I don't think there's ever been a bad Michael Bay performance, right? Let's be real. Like, I don't think he's ever let anybody be bad in his movies because, like, he had some really memorable. uh Poor Megan Fox. I feel bad for all the actors on that movie. But like yeah, like Michael Bay has a way with actors that just gets like really unique performances out of them. So like when you have a script like The Island that is like legitimately solid and well, I mean, he has solid scripts before that, but that's just like great actors, great script, Michael Bay challenging himself, and it's some really like awesome stuff. I think that's some really underrated some really underrated stuff from Michael Bay in general. But hold on, let me where can I just read? Here we go. I swear to God, dude, I had like the worst fucking luck with Rotten Tomatoes. For some reason, that site just does not want to work on my browser. Okay. Um. Oh, he's a he's a conservative. Holy shit, I didn't know that. Wow, that's funny. Um. Let's see here. Okay, so there is a video essay about Armand. So we'll go ahead and watch this video essay and yeah, we'll take it from there. Let me just present this screen. Okay. I'm gonna put that over here. All right, here we go.
This film takes. Let me pull up his Twitter quickly. Oh, he's blocked me. Let me show you a quick preview of why he is without a doubt one of the worst people in the critic space.
Nice.
Narrated by Helen Mirren. Why not Ketanji Brown Jackson? I don't know who that is.
What?
Cliches, queer victimization. Okay, see, like, I want to read the whole reviews here. That's what sucks. I for some goddamn reason, I can't read just like his movie reviews unless I get on Amazon. But son of a bitch. Okay, wait. Let me go here on National Review. Oh, yeah. Let's try that. Live action video game movies and live action anime movies are bad. Mm, you know what? You know what movie I think is really underrated? Silent Hill. I think Silent Hill is a very solid like like horror movie. Hey Mikey, what's going on, dude? Yeah, no, I think Silent Hill, it's not a great movie, but I think it's a pretty solid film. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. But you know what? Like I don't know. I just don't, I think like it's just a matter of time. I think it's just a matter of time before we get that really, really damn good, um, really damn good live action, video game movie. Let's see. Let's go with what should we read here? Let's go with the political failing. Or did he review? Okay, here we go. Wait, whoa. What the fuck is this? Hold on. Did you guys see that headline? Oh, Taylor Swift's Asylum Seekers? A movie concert promotes post Madonna. Dude, Armand White was ahead of his time. This is some serious like nerd rodic fucking like rage baiting shit right here. Let's see. What's going on, everyone? Barry Lyndon should be taught in school instead of yes. You know what? Barry Lyndon should. Kubrick in general should. Like, I mean, we should teach literature for sure, but like, I think like the future of media is very much video based, and I think like if you're gonna teach media literacy, you should probably teach the works of like Stanley Kubrick. I don't know about Barry Lyndon, like maybe like to high school kids, but like definitely like 2001: A Space Odyssey or Paths to Glory for sure. But let's read Armand White's insane review of Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese has made so many movies about monstrous behavior, recycling gangster subject from New York's petty urban thugs and mean streets to his Oklahoma set neo-western Killers of the Flower Moon, that he no longer can properly gauge any moral conflict. what really like that movie's like all like moral conflicts. Adam does movies copied Armand White. Did he really? That's disappointing. I like Adam does movies. Yeah, Laurie Holden does rock. Yeah, she does, but like she also like again, I like Silent Hill the movie. I think it's a pretty solid, pretty actually like I say like a way above average or horror movie, especially for its time. But like one thing that does crack me up about that movie is when Laurie Holden is like spoilers like dying and then like there's a little girl who's about to get sacrificed and she's literally being burned to death. She's just like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Don't worry. It's that shit always cracked me up, man. It's just like such a weird thing to be saying. Like, I feel like it's the last thing you would want to say to a little kid who is about to like meet the person who's burning you to death. You know, he made a video saying why Frosty the Snowman is an a-hole. I mean, I'd have to see the video to be honest. For all I know, he might have a solid point there. If that's not rage bait, I don't know what is exactly. All right, let's keep reading here. Um, Adapting historian David Grant's 2017 account published under that exotic title, Scorsese dramatizes a series of murders in the 1920s of Osage Native American tribe members who had struck oil and gained sudden wealth, the richest people per capita in the United States. This is presented ostentatiously Scorsese style through a slow motion tableau, although no movie over 3 hours long should ever use slow mo. Dude, shut up. All right, like this is a guy who like loves his Michael Bay slow motion and his overly long Transformers movie, but motherfucking like Martin Scorsese can't do slow mo. Like I tell you, this guy, he is a boomer, way ahead of his time. Like this is some real rage bait shit. Okay, um, with interspersed clips from a silent movie documentary, somehow that's doubly redundant, mixing cineast flamboyance and historical horror. Scorsese then, well, I mean, that actually comes into like that means something by the end. Like that has a purpose. It's setting something up. And like, dude, like the to me, one of the things that I loved about Killers of the Flower Moon is that like it's the sort of like gut punch of an ending that only cinema can give you. I don't want to give any spoilers into Killers of the Flower Moon because it just came out, but I did discuss it when I guested on the Organized Chaos podcast when we covered that, and we did go into spoilers on that. So if you guys want to hear my full take on that, check out that podcast. Martin Scorsese needs to go away like the rest of the silent generation. Wow, I mean, nah, man, like I disagree, like because that's a good hot take though. I'll give you that, Mikey. I disagree. That's a 10 out of 10 hot take. I disagree, man. Like I think Scorsese he doesn't feel like he's done. He doesn't feel like he's done. And I mean, yeah, like I think in general the whole, like a lot of I don't want to I'm just gonna move on from that point. But what I'm saying is Scorsese feels like he still has stories to tell and like he hasn't like dipped in quality, you know. Killers of the Flower Moon is easily the best movie I've seen all year. Yeah, but the Grim Reaper thinks he's finished. I know, dude. Like it's somebody pointed out on a podcast that I was listening to, but like it's such a weird contrast between Martin Scorsese's existential fear that he's running out of time to make all the movies that he wants to make, and he's just trying to get them all done right. Meanwhile, fucking like Ridley Scott showed up drunk as fuck on set, rolling like 11 fucking cameras at the same time, being like, all right, let's just fucking go, lads. I gotta go make another Alien movie after this. It's like, I mean, it's a funny contrast, but like either way, as long as they want to tell stories, they should be able to tell stories. But I did think that like there is something to be said about them taking up a lot of oxygen, and that's something else that I'm going to touch on with something with another point a little bit later. But I do think there is something to be said because, like, you know, one of the sad side effects of the streaming era is that like it's almost impossible to have like auteurs anymore because so many films, so many great films essentially just kind of become content for different streaming services and stuff like that. And I think in that environment it's damn near impossible for auteurs to really be noticed and for their styles to be identified. I mean, it's not like it's not happening. It definitely is, but like but like one of the things that definitely doesn't help is that we are still talking about Scorsese and Kubrick and all these directors so much. But like again, they are at the same time like they are the only people. Like no one gets to make a Killers of the Flower Moon except like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola could do whatever the fuck he wants, right? And maybe like Paul Thomas Anderson, and that's it. But you know, and Ari Aster, who like apparently Ari Aster and Martin Scorsese are homies. Now that's pretty fucking legit. But yeah, man, like I think we need to like put more work. I get wanting to like preserve the legacy of all these brilliant directors and celebrating their work, but I think right now, as a film community, we should try to develop ways to figure out like who are the next Scorseses, who are the Scorseses working now, and how do we support them so that they can become like the next Martin Scorseses in this like atmosphere, this environment in Hollywood that doesn't allow for Scorseses to make the movies he wants to make, you know, without the help of fucking Apple and shit. Um, let's see. I just think Scorsese needs to stay in his art film lane. That sort of attitude is why the term artsy farty. Well, I mean, the thing is that like Scorsese's words about the whole Marvel thing have been like blown up because like he says, you know, he's not trying to like. First of all, like I'll be hot take. Like I agree with Scorsese on that thing. It's just that like I agree with what he actually said, not with like the way that what he said was reported. If you watch the whole clip, what he essentially says is that like the sort of movies that he makes, right? The Killers of the Flower Moon, those sorts of movies, like what essentially he is saying is that those movies are becoming impossible to make because the Marvels are taking over, and he does compare them to a roller coaster ride, sure, but I think like the reason why he's doing that is because compared to a Martin Scorsese movie, which is what he's talking about, like yeah, like a Marvel movie is like comparatively a roller coaster ride. That's not to say that they can't be great and all that shit, but like the overall point that Scorsese was trying to make is that those movies need to exist. Like that we need to make room for both the Killers of the Flower Moon of the world and for the Marvel movies. I think it was a poor choice of words too, but like I think Scorsese has definitely made a point to state, especially after all the controversy, that no, like he doesn't hate the MCU, doesn't think they're like bad art or anything. It's just that like yeah, like when when he's referring to his own work, I think that's a fair comparison. And especially when he's like talking about movies like that as well as his own personal stuff. When Scorsese dies midway through a movie, do they get, let me see. Oh, well, I think Greg is gonna help me answer this one. Finish all AI. Definitely still on tour directors like art. Okay, yes, Greg B. That's a good point. I guess A24, right? I guess A24 is where we find our auteurs because yeah, like Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, and by the way, I would say that Ari Aster would should that's my answer. I think Ari Aster would um Ari Aster should definitely if God forbid that ever happens, but like if anyone should do it, I think Ari Aster should because apparently they're homies. Bo is Afraid is really inspired by After Hours. Like I just watched After Hours like a month ago for the first time, and you could totally tell the connection there. Um but yeah, no, I think Ari Aster would be a solid pick there. Scorsese, please just let me have my dumb. No, I mean like I think he likes. I mean, I think he's all for like dumb movies and shit. From what I understand, like Scorsese watches like everything. From what like him and Christopher Nolan, like Nolan actually goes to the theaters. That's the thing. Apparently, like if you're in LA or if you're like in London, where it's like where he splits his time and shit, like he just shows up to movie theaters and he'll watch like everything, literally fucking everything. It's crazy. Um, and crime cinema is a subgenre that many people don't understand most of the time, at least when it comes to the stereotypical bougie type of people. I put a pin on that, and two, I'm gonna put a star on that because I'm gonna refer to that a little bit later. Maybe after this. If Scorsese dies, man, movies they should get a Marvel. That'd be fucking great. You know who you should get? The guy who makes the Ant-Man movies. That guy should fucking finish the and then he should have like total rewrites on the script privileges and all that shit too. Let me see. Iron Claw. Yeah. The Iron Claw. I think that comes out tomorrow. I want to see that one too. There's a lot of good. This is like, say what you will about like the whole year. Like this is like peak fucking Oscar season. We're like back to like the golden era of Oscar season but it's just like I feel the time of like super stuffy like costume dramas. Like I feel like that's fading out, you know. And I feel like we're getting like way better picks for best pictures, like especially this year. Like the pool of movies that are gonna get nominated this year is pretty goddamn solid, you know. Um, have you seen it yet? Have you seen Iron Claw yet? Well, The Wrestler is a good ass movie, by the way. I think that's peak Aronofsky. Um, let's see. I need to make. Dude, hell yeah, man. If you do like make a video of it, I'd love to see it. I think I've read all of I don't think I need to read this whole thing. I think fucking seems to go on forever. Okay, so let's move on to my next hot take here. And I'm actually gonna go with the one that N2 brought this up here. And this is gonna go along the lines of that N2. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Werner Herzog movie Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. All right, it's a movie that came out in 2009, directed by Werner Herzog, starring Nicolas Cage. It is a serious like crime drama, right? Like it's a movie that like it's made by Werner Herzog. This guy knows how to tell. He knows how to fucking direct the movies, but he knows how to fucking work his way with the camera and all that shit. And this is a story about a man who is slowly losing his humanity, losing his loyalty to the law, meanwhile finding a completely new reason to continue on, to continue going with life and all that shit. And the dude, basically the story is of a man who is slowly realizing that he is not as selfish and as terrible as he thinks he is, you know. But the problem is that like it's let's see. Movies with homoerotic yeah, no, I agree. We need more homoeroticism. We need more Top Guns in most movies, like that volleyball scene and shit. But like what was I saying? Like yeah, so it's like a movie that genuinely is well directed. But the thing is that like it is Werner Herzog and it is Nicolas Cage, two fucking crazy people who make ridiculous fucking choices, you know. Um, it's a puppet for, but like, but but the thing is that like the choices that are being made by both the director and the actor are so bad it's good. Like it's classic Nicolas Cage just going fucking ham, going way over the fucking top for if it, who knows if it's even a good idea, but he's just going for it, you know. And it's like one of those movies that most people watch once and they laugh because how weird it is, because like yeah, it is like it is an insane movie that is borderline so bad it's good. The thing is that it's like actually a really fucking well made movie, and like it's actually like well, okay, let's put it this way, right? So the movie is about Nicolas Cage plays a cop during Katrina, and yeah, hell yeah, Greg B, you know what it is, dude. And Herzog is fucking Kino, 100%. uh yeah, but I'll get to that second. But like but it's a movie that has so many like great fucking yeah, you guys get it. You guys absolutely fucking get it. And he does make documentaries, but he makes documentaries more now. But yeah, Bad Lieutenant Protocol in New Orleans. It's on YouTube. It's free, and it's such a goddamn underrated movie. Um, because like yeah, again, like there's moments in it like shoot him again. I could see his soul dancing. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Like, watch it. It's really fucking great. But there are so many fantastic, like, directorial choices and all that shit, right? Like, it's about Nicolas Cage. and he saves a drowning fucking prisoner during Hurricane Katrina, and then injures his back and becomes addicted to opioids, right? And as he gets addicted to opioids, he becomes more corrupt as a police officer. And Barry Lyndon is free with, well, hey, if that's the only way to see it. Yes, thank you, Lindsay. exactly, exactly. But like he becomes more corrupt, and he starts off really corrupt as it is, right? And like the more corrupt he gets, like the more unhinged it is, and it's fucking glorious. It's fucking hilarious to watch. But there are like some legitimately great moments, right? So one of the really great subtle touches throughout the movie is that he is a cop. Like Nicolas Cage plays a cop, but he is never in uniform. And one of the things is that like he treats everybody like shit except like the people who need his help, except for like the people who genuinely need his help. He is really kind to, but to other cops, he is a complete asshole to them, right? So there's this really fucking amazing scene, a really great fucking scene where Nicolas Cage, again, he doesn't wear he doesn't wear a uniform, he wears a suit, right? And he goes and they're about to like they're trying to arrest this guy that they have a warrant for. And when he goes there, all these cops have this elaborate like SWAT team get up and all this shit. They're ready to get fucking violent, right? But again, these are all uniformed police officers, right? And Nicolas Cage shows up in his tan suit. And Nicolas Cage is like, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing? What the fuck? Like, this is too much. And he tells him, no, we got your back. Like, we have all this shit ready to go. It's like, no, you know what? Fuck you guys. Look, you stay here. If I call for backup, then do all this shit. But let me try to handle this shit on my own. And what Nicolas Cage's character does, Terrence, by the way, he just walks to the neighbors, like he walks to the neighbor's house who's like right next door. He says, "Hey, can I like go over your backyard? I need to get next door." And the neighbor's like, "Oh yeah, sure, officer, come on through." And he just goes in, walks in through the back door of the house next door, and he arrests the guy all by himself and all that shit, right? Because again, like he treats everybody around him except like the people who like he has to work with. Like he refuses to put a shit ton of people in danger to get to this guy, right? And there's a reason why I keep bringing up the tan suit. It's because he is a cop and he isn't in police uniform, but every single criminal in this movie wears a tan suit. And throughout the movie, he gets more and more involved with the criminal underground. So, like visually, directorially, the movie is telling you this is a cop who identifies as a criminal. You know, and look again, this is a ridiculous movie that has some really wild, off the wall shit that like you don't even know how to react to it. Like there's a there's a scene with a spoon, and that's I mean, you gotta watch it. It's a fucking fantastic movie. But yeah, that movie should be fucking celebrated and talked about a lot more. That's Real Crime most of the time. King of New York is also another great crime drama. Check that one. I'll be sure to check that out, man. But like, I mean, yeah, but it's fucking fantastic movie. I didn't know that. That's cool. That fucking oh my god, I love that. I don't want to say too much, but the fact that like the third act begins with like a character just walking in, being like, "Good news." I tell you, man. I tell you, that movie's fucking amazing. Yeah, dude, it's like the face acting throughout the whole fucking movie, dude. Like seriously, but and yes, the iguanas are ridiculous, but like they represent something, in the movie. All right, so it is a sequel to the Harvey Keitel flick. Actually, it is. It wasn't originally. Funny enough, right? It wasn't originally, but the producers of the movie. It was originally just called Port of Call New Orleans, but the producers of the movie also had the rights to the name, and they made Werner Herzog add the Bad Lieutenant to it, so that it's like the sequel thing. It's just gonna have more appeal and shit because it's familiar to some people. I've never actually seen the original. From what I hear, it's kind of pretentious, like in the sleazy way, which is like my least favorite way. Yeah. So I know that like I said that I finished with the Armand White thing, but I do want to touch back on that a little bit because contrarianism is like a way of being like a bad film critic. I think not having like a good knowledge of the history of the medium that you're criticizing or anything like that. Um, like yeah, like historical, like yeah, all that shit, like all, and also like unabashedly have a taste. Like I think the best critics are ones that are unapologetic about what they have, like about what they feel and all that, and don't even try to like I mean sure, like the thing is that like film critics don't have to try to be objective, because through their writing, through their references, through their comparisons and all that, it should be apparent that you have a working knowledge of film as an art form or any medium that you are criticizing. And also here's another big one, like to me, and I feel like this about like everything in general, right? But especially, we're talking about movies. So like when it comes to movies, a good sign that somebody has like a good fucking taste, right? That somebody's like opinions are worth taking seriously. It's not when most people, right? Like when most people think something like that, they assume that it's like an appreciation of like the canon of classics, To me, like anybody can fucking watch Citizen Kane and understand why it's great. Anybody can watch Jurassic Park and understand why it's great, right? Anybody can watch like There Will Be Blood and understand why it's amazing. So like to me, I'm not really like too too interested in that. That doesn't really say anything to me. I'm interested in the person that can like watch a B movie and then find the cinema in it. I mean, like there are some movies out there that are so goddamn cynical that are just like so like they're schlocky in a way that's no fun, that's not creative or anything like that. Fuck them. But movies that are just like even like bad movies and shit like that, where you can just like see people making cinema, right? Whether it be like the special effects, the good direction, the cinematography and all that shit, like if you can find what's great about anything you watch instead of like, oh, like what's great about what's already agreed upon to be great, like that's what shows me that you know your shit, that you have a real appreciation for all this stuff. A Return of the Living, yeah, Return of the Living Dead is pretty solid, and to me, I'm sorry, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom is a fucking fantastic, the only truly great sequel in the Jurassic Park franchise, easily. And it's not because of its script. The script is terrible, but like just because a movie is not a script, right? Like if a script is bad, that means the writer failed. That doesn't mean anybody else failed. And like what makes Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom great is that like the actors are giving every scene their all. The direction is really solid. Like J.A. Bayona got a shitty script to work with, so he just amplified sort of the world building and the themes of it all and all that. Like, and for what it's worth, and also like the movie's just super well directed, super well shot. Like it's again, it's not to, anybody can see why Jurassic Park is great, but only a true lover of cinema could appreciate Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or really can look past sort of a movie's flaws to find what's good. And I mean, look, sometimes a movie is so flawed that you can't fucking appreciate the good parts of it. That happens. But like, yeah, and it is all about commitment. Exactly. I always talk about that scene in Vacation of Terror 2, one of those cheap Mexican B horror movies that I watched for Mesa Terror. Like, there's a scene where like a woman gets turned into a piece of fondant and then gets put onto a cake, and then like you see this red fluid coming down this elaborate cake that for some reason has like a river running through it. Like it's insane, right? But like you can tell that they want to make a set piece, but they can't. So they turn her into a fondant, and then they edit and they sound design and all this shit that's literally just cake and fondant, and they make an action scene out of it. And it's great and it fucking works, and like it's fun as hell to watch. You know, being able to appreciate that, for me, that's what says you really truly love this art form. Straight up. Jurassic Park also gave us the best band. Yeah, yeah, dude, it makes you want to hold on to what's golden. Hey, what's up, Troy? How you doing, man? Hey, by the way, so I see there's more people here. This is a BYO hot takes. As you can see in the live chats, there are people who are bringing some hot takes of their own. So if you got some hot takes, spin them in the chat, and we'll definitely talk them up, talk them out. My top 5 favorite Jurassic. Yeah, no, for all the and Jurassic Park 3 is very flawed, but the Spinosaurus is a pretty solid fucking villain in my opinion. And I also kind of love the fucking slasher element of it, where like you literally never hear or see this giant fucking dinosaur. He's just like suddenly right fucking behind you and shit every now and then. And one only will like the new John movie because most of his earlier work that's from China is actually mid cynical. Besides having a lot of pew pews and bang bangs. Hey, look, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's called like what, Violent Silent Night or something like that. Like, clearly, when you see something like that, like it's all about the action. And I think if a movie is so devoid of dialogue that it just is that, like, it's not, like it's not hiding its intentions or anything. The Blade trilogy is the best Marvel. Now that is a hot take because yeah, no, I tried to watch Blade 3 back in the day, but I just couldn't get through it. So that's pretty, again, Mikey. Just killing it with the hot takes today, man. Definitely killing it with the hot takes. Let's see. On the subject of Jurassic Park, I will take 3 over 2. Well, dude, it is pure cheese. I'll give you that. But the Lost World Jurassic Park, to me, the first 2 acts are fucking great. Like legitimately great. I do feel like there are so many lost opportunities. If you ever read the original script before they whittled it down to the shooting draft, there was so much better characterized. There was such better characterization there that just made everything click. I really don't like the third act of the Lost World, but I think the first 2 acts are fucking gold. As far, and the action sequences really are what make that movie, in my opinion. But I mean, but JP3 is pure cheese, which is what I like about it too. I did not like The Boy and the Heron. I thought the story was too muddy, and if all I can say about the movie is the animation and knife, that's not well. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. Like, I hope it's still playing in theaters tomorrow. Maybe I'll check it out when I get back from work. But I do want to check that out. The book is better. Okay, all right. So there was 2 things. Okay, I'll touch this because Lindsay, Lindsay's been wanting me to watch Hook, and I'm not really looking forward to it. I've never seen Hook, and in my experiences, and here's another hot take, right? I don't even know if this is a hot take, to be honest, but like I feel like there are some movies that if you don't watch it within like the right time frame in your life, it's just not gonna work. All right. And when I go on Letterboxd and I see Hook and all the reviews for it, like that's what I get. Like that's why, I mean, I'll watch it. Like Lindsay watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind last week, and for the first time, by the way. It's pretty crazy considering how long we've known each other. But you're entitled to your wrong opinion. Well, okay, look, I haven't seen it. Like, I haven't seen it. For all I know, I will like it, but it's not something that I'm particularly looking forward to. Opposite. You see? I like Blade 3. I think even Buffy the Vampire Slayer would have stopped. That was pretty much a bad guy plot all around. Isn't there a word for trying to kill them all? I mean, I can't even remember much of Blade 3 at all, but I remember not liking it. Let's see. Carlos Gallardo shouldn't have recast. I haven't actually seen Desperado, to be honest. Wait, is that the sequel to Un Mariachi? Because I haven't seen it. You know what's weird? Like, I actually read Rebel Without a Crew a long time ago, so I probably should have recognized that name. Okay, so okay, there was another hot take that I wanted to bring up here, and maybe this isn't a hot take, because to be honest, like I've only known one person who has seen this movie, and they agreed with me as far as how I felt. And I remember like a lot of the podcasts that I listened to were really positive on this movie. But like Toy Story 4 was a mistake. Like Toy Story 4, like it's not a bad movie. It is not a bad movie at all. All right. Like it's incredibly well animated. All right, let's be real. It's Pixar. The voice acting is great. I like Forky. You know, they do some cute stuff with a lot of characters, but like, what the fuck was that movie, man? Like what the fuck was that? Like, I don't like. Okay, here's the thing. You know never mind the Fantastic Four thing. But anyways, here's a problem with Toy Story 4. Okay, is that there is something inherently natural with a toy wanting to be played with, right? That's their toys. That's what they do. They get played with. If they don't get played with, they kind of don't serve a function, right? Like that. Cool. And the subtext of the first three like Toy Story movies, what made them great is that subtly they're talking about like growing up. They're talking about like you know, um almost like existential values. They're movies that are sort of very subtextually from a parent's perspective, you know? And they're also they're movies about like stages in life, you know. Toy Story is about like childhood. Toy Story 2. That's why I like Toy Story 1 is literally like not only about them being uh, you know, uh children's playthings, like literal children, but like that's why the sort of plot is so kind of childish, right? Like Woody is jealous that Buzz, this new toy, is getting all the attention. And like, yeah, like that's kind of childish, right? And then you move on to Toy Story 2, which is a movie about adolescence, right? And in adolescence, that's when we come to like define ourselves. That's when we sort of come to like bring meaning and identity to our own lives. In Toy Story 2, they're no longer getting like played with and all that shit. And they start, seeing the other things that toys can be. They can be collectibles and all that shit. And then you have the story of Jesse, and then by the end, all the toys have sort of formed this new family and like this new identified thing, and that's adolescence, right? Toy Story 3 is about like leaving your childhood behind and being an adult, and sort of like putting the past in the past and moving on from childish things. That's why the are being dropped off, and it's about sort of having a love and respect for that. Like these are all sort of metaphors for stages of your life and sort of for like parenthood and adulthood, right? But it's all a fucking subtextual thing. It's all like between the lines, right? Like it's all under the surface. Toy Story 4 is literally like about like Woody being like, well, I should just go on retirement because the kids got all these friends now. Like it's still like about a stage in life, but like at that point, at that point it's just literal. It's just literal, like from a point, it's just literal about different aspects of your life, and it's made literal that this is like a story about adulthood to the point that it just becomes absurd. Like it becomes absurd that like Woody is like considering leaving a child behind to help other. It's a toy. It goes against the nature. Toys aren't created to bring joy to each other. Like they're meant to be played with. And again, like there's a lot of subtext and a lot of like subtleties that make the first three Toy Story movies work so well. But the problem with Toy Story 4 is that there's no more fucking subtlety. There's it's all text now. Now that it's all text, it's ridiculous that we're telling this story using toys. It's so literally, it's about retirement, for fuck's sakes. It's about the kids leaving the fucking nest. Like what are we doing? Like what's the next fucking Star Wars? What's the next Toy Story movie going to be about? Right? What what like Woody having to consult his doctor for Viagra or some shit? Like what? Where do you go from here? There's nothing to go from here. Okay. I need to calm down. There's nowhere to go from here. you know, when it comes to like the aging thing, without getting just uncomfortably like literal. And I like Toy Story 4, just again, not a bad movie, but a movie that arguably should not have fucking existed. Just it should not have been made. It's a bad fucking idea. Okay, sorry. This- That's it. Just happens with age, man. Let me see here. Pixar is one of the best Pixar movies. I need to see those two. My little brother saw Onward, and then like text me when he killed like, hey bro, like let's go check out Onward, like, and then fucking COVID happened. Toy Story guilts you for becoming an adult. Yeah, it kind of does, especially Toy Story 3. And yes, 100%, dude. Um, yeah, that fucking song, bro. It's that fucking song. And it was made for money. That's the worst thing about it, you know? They should make a sequel to Akira and based it on the second half of the manga. I've never actually like I don't know much about the manga, to be honest. It almost felt like a bet studio had to see if they can make gold people pay $30 for a platinum. That's I could see that actually. There was supposed to be another small soldiers coming out or something. That could be fun. That could be interesting. But Ed Woody has some. So the other small soldiers was the game. Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay. Let's see. But Ed Woody has some. Okay. Yeah, that was just Toy Story 4, dude. Like I'm so glad I'm not alone on this. Like what the fuck was that movie? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I've never related more to Eric July right now. I don't understand it. Okay. We should bring back the term for the birds. That's got nothing to do with movies. That's just I just believe that. Let's see. Okay. This is gonna be a bit of a controversial one. Okay. Move like we are gonna get as time has moved on, right? As cinema has moved on as an art form, we have gotten like less and less and less like devoted to, you know, practicality and shit. I mean, look at, a good example is Mad Max Fury Road versus Furiosa. There's a lot more CGI elements in Furiosa that are more like in line, not so much with the way that Fury Road used CGI, but with the way that like most movies use CGI, right? To like just create shit that isn't actually there. And like the thing is, and another thing that was sort of we talked about earlier, right, is like all these older directors and shit, uh we're not getting as many like, Godfathers or Apocalypse Nows or Heaven's Gates or Barry Lyndon's. We're not getting a whole lot of those movies anymore. A whole lot of movies with that sort of ambition and that sort of scope. I mean, we do get movies with that sort of like runtime, and we do get stuff like that like occasionally. But I feel like they're getting fewer and further between. And those movies are still mainly coming out of sort of the Martin Scorsese's and the Ridley Scotts. Um, and I mean, look, I'm just glad those movies exist, just like straight up, right? Like, I'm glad that that's all out there. Um, but and this is sort of a good thing, right? I feel like society in general, we are less and less tolerant of dickish behavior. We're less and less tolerant of toxicity, of a good example is like in the Deer Hunter. There's a scene where Robert De Niro, you know, pulls the trigger, and there is a live round. There's an actual live round in the gun onto John Cazale's head and pulls the trigger, right? And they did it. They made sure that it wasn't going to click on there and all that shit. But like that was a real gun. There was a real bullet there. Uh, like that's fucking horrifying, right? But like the Robert De Niro and everybody on set said that brought out like a fucking intensity, and that should have fucking happened, right? That should not fucking happen. But we got that moment, and let's look at The Shining, and we all know Shelley Duvall, all the bullshit she suffered, and like it's not cool, not fair. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. I hate to be that fucking guy, but like that is a fucking performance, and that is a fucking And look, I am not saying that people should be treated poorly. All right, I'm not saying that people should be. I'm not trying to make excuses for that, but there is something to being the kind of insane fucking person that is willing to do that. That like those people are not allowed to make movies and shit anymore. Good thing it wasn't in Deer Hunter. Yeah, no. Again, like, look, I'm not saying that like we should be having live rounds, nothing like that. What I'm saying is that like there's something about that attitude that is no longer welcome, and that's no longer, especially like in the younger generation, like you're not getting that sort of like intensity and shit. And that is a good thing to one extent, but I feel like you need to be that sort of fucking insane asshole to make movies that grand and that big and all that shit. The problem is that a lot of directors think they're that guy. They think they're like David O. Russell is a good example. He thinks that he's a Stanley Kubrick, so he feels like he's entitled to be an asshole, and that's bullshit, and that's not acceptable. And you see that, and dude, it's so pathetic when you know like big directors act that way, but it's so much more pathetic when you see how many like small like indie directors clearly just like do this shit just to be assholes. Like it's fucking gross and shit. It's sort of like when somebody becomes an actor just to be like Jared Leto, just to be a method actor who's a complete asshole and all that shit, you know? Um like yeah, it's just an excuse, but when it's genuine, when it's sincere, and when it's necessary, it fucking works. For the Deer Hunter, as long as no one was foreshadowed, The Shining is I agree. The Shining is a different story, 100%. Again, what Shelley Duvall did not deserve all that for sure. The directors have to trust actors to deliver the performance. That is very true. That is I mean, there's nuances to be had. I'll 100%. Again, it's a hot take. It's meant to be a little incendiary, but I do believe that like in I'm not saying Stanley Kubrick is Shelley Duvall levels. I'm not even saying Michael Cimino with the Deer Hunter levels, but like just a maybe like a little temp, just as much as is absolutely necessary and no more, But we need to figure out that number and shit, Because look, I like Ari Aster, right? Like he seems like such a nice guy. By all reports, he's a nice guy, and he seems like he's a brilliant actor with directors and all that shit. And like but like he has a great big vision, a great big scope, right? Like all his movies are really long. I like them all to varying degrees, but like Beau is Afraid is a 3-hour movie. That's insane, right? And I mean, there is something cool about the fact that with that large of a canvas, he made something so personal. But somebody with just more like, somebody with a little more um of that sort of old school auteur vibe with that sort of canvas. Not could have probably made something equally as fucking personal, but much more like impactful and shit. And not to say that movie isn't, but it's just like in a very like touchy feely sort of way. Um, let's see. Alfred Hitchcock made all these guys look like Boy Scouts. Yeah, that's very true. I think the further back you go, like it's probably the case for all that. Scream should have been a one and done. Look, I've only seen the first 3 Screams. I really like the second one. I don't know. I like the second one a lot, but the third one the third one was weak for sure. I loved all 3 of Aster movies. Beau is Afraid is like a nightmare that never stops. It's a trip. No, it is a trip. Like it's that last hour. It's that last hour of Beau is Afraid that really just sort of dropped in quality for me, And like that ending. That ending is it leaves a lot to discuss, a lot to think about because it's so nothing at the same time. Actually, but I haven't seen it. Oh, dude, there's something wrong with the Johnsons or whatever. There's something about the Johnsons, man. Like, yeah, I mean, I could see why this guy's allowed to do whatever he did. Like, if you watch that short, it is disturbing. It's funny as shit, but it is fucking disturbing, it shows something very taboo in a very different light, and it manages to say something so much more like horrifying about this terrible thing, um and much more to like the truth of it than like is normally discussed, man. But yeah, that is a fucking great movie right there. Speaking of Boy Scouts, The Last Boy Scout is the best Die Hard movie besides the OG. I haven't actually seen that one. I don't think it justified the movie by itself. Hell yeah. I also love the opening too. Hey RD, how you doing, man? Oedipus dilemma with pretty much. Hey Mika, how you doing, dude? Hereditary is my favorite. Yeah, I think it's my favorite too, but like I feel like I need to rewatch Midsommar, man. I feel like I watched it when I was hungover as shit, and that affected how I felt about it. But now that I don't drink, I should check it out. Let's move on to another hot take here. All right, all right, all right. Okay. Here is a list of directors who I believe never would have made a movie if they had YouTube like in the 50s and 60s and 70s and shit. All right. Number 1, Woody Allen. I don't think like I've only look. I'm not gonna watch his movies now. Now that like we all know what we know about him, first of all. But like even before then, I've only seen like 4 or 5 Woody Allen movies, and the only one that really stuck with me was Annie Hall. Um, I don't know. Like to me, he makes fine movies, but they never feel like movies that need to be movies. I feel like all his stuff, all his movies could have been plays and it would have been just fine, or like a Broadway show, or all that shit. Yeah, like I don't know, like his movies never have like any cinematic quality to me, and I feel like he was a pretty good stand-up and shit, but like I feel like if he had a YouTube channel, he would have just he would first of all, I don't think he's a director. Used to put out a movie every year, but then a bunch of stuff came out like about him being basically a pederast. Yeah, there's a whole documentary about it on Max, but that's a whole thing. Yeah, I feel like Woody Allen, like none of his movies needed like even like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, and none of them benefited from having all these great actors. Like, I think that if he had a YouTube channel, he would have only made short films with like local actors and like a lot of vlogs. I don't think he would have ever. I don't think he would have ever like tried to make like a serious movie and stuff. Um, or yeah. I think he'd be more happy with the YouTube sort of shit than anything else. Um, ever seen? Yeah. I saw Ants, but like but I feel like that's more DreamWorks wanting like really badly wanting to get into getting into like the Bugs Life thing. Who want to be weird like Wes Anderson's latest film, like stop motion with act. Yeah, yeah. I'm not a fan of Wes Anderson. I guess that's a hot take. Like I've, I've never okay. Like what Wes Anderson, like you could tell this guy had a trust fund. You know, his movies are so pillowy. I don't know. His movies just always just feel cute, like too cute for me to like ever really engage with them. I like my movies with a little grit to them for sure. He's another director that I feel would have never made a movie if they had YouTube way back in the day. Quentin Tarantino. I know that's a crazy one to say, but like I really do feel that like the reason why he became a director was because he wanted to like really really just geek out about all these like niche B movies and obscure like lost films and shit like that. But like and don't get me wrong, he's made some great movies. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I feel like if he had a YouTube channel like in the 80s, he just would have made a YouTube channel about all these cool like B movies that time forgot and all that shit. Um but I mean I guess it's a good thing then that we kind of missed out on or that he missed out on YouTube being around when he was younger and shit. Every line is a joke that isn't meant to be funny. Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I can see that. All right, here's another one. This is probably gonna be a little more obvious. Kevin Smith. I don't think I don't think that guy would have made it. I don't think that guy would have made a movie like because I think he would have made if he had a YouTube channel, he would have started it when he was like a teenager. And like if you ever watched the Clerks making of the documentary, it has footage of him like when he was a kid trying his hand at stand up and like writing all these skits. Like he had the chops and shit. To be funny and to be engaging and all that shit, to be entertaining. So I feel like if he would have started a YouTube channel when he was like 16, 17, 18, or anything like that, he would have totally just kind of done that his entire life. He still would have done the podcast and all. But I think the only reason why he still makes movies is because he just started making movies, you know? who does more podcasts and movies today. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that like his movies are so like like Kevin Smith, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Quentin Tarantino right now. They're all kind of going through the same phase in their careers, right? And yes, I agree. Holy crap, yeah, 100%. Tusk Defender, agree with you, Blackwing. But like, what was I going to say about Kevin? Yeah. So the thing about those three directors is that like right now they're all in their old man phase, right? These are like all directors who at one point were hitting into zeitgeist, made impactful movies, cemented their place, and were trying to cement their place in the sort of canon of film, right? But like they're all old now, and I think they haven't had that same ambition for a while. I feel like QT became a lot less ambitious after, from what I saw, Inglorious Bastards. But I think a lot of people would agree that who've seen it would agree that probably was Django. With Paul Thomas Anderson, I don't think he's made like a really great movie since The Master. And Kevin Smith is like the most obvious like example of this. But like outside of Tusk, I think Tusk was the last time he really fucking went for it, you know? And I think Clerks 3 like brought out Clerks 3 is a weird movie, like in retrospect, because like it's like the comedy doesn't work in that movie almost at all. But the drama is so fucking good, you know? But like but anyways, I think what I'm trying to get at here is that all three of these directors are past the point when they're trying to make great works of cinema and are just kind of like making movies that cater to their own niche audiences and their own niche tastes, you know, their own really personal sort of shit, like Paul Thomas Anderson making a movie about like his relationship with his wife in Phantom Thread, or Licorice Pizza, which is just I didn't like Licorice Pizza, just straight up. I didn't like Licorice Pizza. But like, yeah, they're all going through like their old man phase, and like, um, I feel like Quentin Tarantino is done. Like, I think he said he's done. Like, I think he's kind of, you know, quietly fading into the night on his own terms. I think Kevin Smith is just always gonna make movies for his podcast audience and shit like that. Um, but I think Paul Thomas Anderson is gonna come back around and start making some more essential cinema pretty soon. Which one of these guys would have been a right wing grifter had they been on YouTube? Oh man, that is a good question. That is a very good question. Of the people that I've listed so far, I would say this is gonna be a controversial one. I would say Kevin Smith, because like he hated the original Batman because it wasn't accurate to the comics, and I think like maybe he would have seen that fucking nerdrotic grift on the horizon and shit too, you know. Yoga Hosers is worse. Yeah, I heard Yoga Hosers. I didn't see it. I heard it was so fucking bad, you know. Then we got Damien Chazelle. I love Babylon, but I will say the movie from the guy is a curveball, ambitious, but a little too close to the sun. I need to see that one for sure. Because you know what? You're not the only person who has said that about it. It's not, or PTA, he was always way more niche. Yeah, no, he definitely was. And he was never on that level of artistry. But as far as like where they are in their career and in their lives, I think they're very much like aligned in movies. But Axton is a pretty good character in BL2. BL2. I don't know what BL2 is, to be honest. Quincy. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, I got two more. I got two more for this list, right? I got two more. Harmony Korine. I don't think. In fact, I would say that like if he was a TikTok, like if he was a kid when TikTok was out, he would be like one of the greatest TikTokers. He probably would have made TikTok into a fucking art. I feel like if Harmony Korine was just allowed to make his weirdo, you know what, he would kind of be like Borderlands 2. Okay, all right, my bad, man. You know, I don't think I remember. I don't remember playing as Axton, to be honest. But like, yeah, like Harmony Korine, in my opinion, would have been like a way more off the wall Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. Um, yeah, like I feel like, and I feel like he would have done some really crazy, bizarre, cool shit. And the funny thing is that I could totally see him being the kind of YouTuber or TikToker who would have still gone on to work with a bunch of celebrities and shit, you know. Richard Linklater. You know what? I could kind of add him to this list. Well, I could kind of add him to this list too because he is so like it's so weird. Okay, here's what I don't like, and one of the reasons why Boyhood is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life is that like he's so interested in just capturing the mundanities of life, and sometimes it works really well, like in Dazed and Confused. You know, but like to me, cinema is art. It's inherently like artificial. It has an artifice to it. That's the magic of it. You know, like the whole point of it is to take advantage of the fact that the audience is there to like suspend their disbelief, and you can just kind of, you know, throw some crazy shit up there and all that, and call that, you know, whatever. But like Richard Linklater, when he does like Boyhood, when there's literally no plot and nothing happens, I get it. Like, oh yeah, well, it's because in real life nothing happens, and I'm like, yeah, no shit. Why do you think I watch movies? So I could see shit happen. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like, so I feel like okay, so I feel like Richard Linklater would have been a YouTuber. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Waking Life, who probably would have been like a much more self-serious and pretentious. And yes, A Scanner Darkly, that's peak Linklater in my opinion. Like, but yeah, he would have definitely like just kind of been like a more self-serious, maybe like a Casey Neistat. I could see it being like a Casey Neistat sort of thing. Um, and yeah, Harmony Korine would have been he would have done some crazy shit. I think so. Uh I like the director of Babylon more than the director of Kingsman. I mean, his decisions became who directed Kingsman? I'm not entirely sure. I view Boyhood as an experiment, much like Van Zant's Psycho. Both were a waste of time, but one got praised. Yeah, yes, yeah, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, I remember like I remember watching Boyhood, and just like I was watching with someone who was really stoked on it, but like I literally like every half an hour just had to like take a step out to the bathroom and be like, oh, dude, I don't want to be a dick, but I want to go home. From a Simpsons parody, they tried the film but couldn't watch it for long. Yeah, yeah, dude, that movie's boring as hell. It's straight up fucking boring as hell. And I got one more director for this list. And and that's going to lead over to my next one. I think I might have said this one a few times, but I'll get in depth with it here. Judd Apatow. Judd Apatow, much like Kevin Smith in his teenage years, he had like a little radio show and all that. And oh, is that Matthew Vaughn? Oh, Matthew Vaughn. Okay, yeah. I, I think I like a couple Matthew Vaughn movies actually. I think Kick Ass. He made Kick Ass. That's a good movie. But what was I saying? Spike Jones? No, because he came from propaganda. I think, or at least I think he did, right? I think he was working with the David Fincher and Zack Snyder and all that back in the day. Didn't Matthew Vaughn make X-Men First Class? That's a really underrated movie in my opinion. But what was I saying? Yeah, like Judd Apatow. Yeah, he had like his own little radio show that he was doing in high school, and I feel like yes, 100%. I'll get to that in a second, dude. But like like he was interviewing like comedians. He was doing stand up when he was in high school and shit. Kind of like Kevin Smith. I think that if he would have had YouTube when he was younger, he would have been the really fucking famous like podcaster who again would go on to still interview and work with comedians and all that, but like on a podcasting thing. Because here's the thing, and this is my next hot take, right? Judd, a lot of people say that comedy is dead because of how cinema, like, we only go to the theaters to watch like these big movies. And here's the thing, they're not wrong. They are not wrong. But there's a whole ass fucking other side of the conversation that gets left out here. And that's Judd Apatow and his direction, right? Look, before Judd Apatow and his style, and let's just kind of define his fucking style, right? And the reason why his movies age like milk, his style is like a camera locked down in front of a two shot while two directors, two actors kind of say sort of funny things, and then they just cut out the stuff that doesn't work and leaving the stuff that does work. They just let the camera roll on for like 10, 15 minutes and they just cut out the shit that doesn't work, you know? And when you do that, when you're that improvisational, you can't really do anything interesting with the camera. You can't, that's why it's so locked off and shit. So, and the thing is, right, is that before that style took off, you had to have a funny script, right? You have to have a funny script. You had to have funny actors. And like in the best case scenario, and let's use something like Billy Madison or um yeah, like Billy Madison. There's that scene where do you have any more gum? That musical like moment and shit like that. Like that took ambition, that took imagination, that took planning, that took set off like that to get the good costume design. The cinematographer had to be like, how are we gonna shoot this in a way that's funny? Right? Or you look at Dumb and Dumber, like the car they drive looks hilarious. It's just funny to look at. The point that I'm getting at here is that before it's like back in the day, you had to have not just funny actors, but you had to have a funny script. You had to have people in the art departments, all the heads who are also trying to add to the comedy in whatever fucking ways that they can. And so like uh there's actual style to like comedies back in the day. And yeah, sure, you had your improvisational bits, but like they never relied on it. And because of that, like they gave you a comedic experience that you couldn't get in real life, right? You couldn't get it because real life isn't designed to make you laugh all the time, you know? And not just that, but like comedy writers and same thing for actors for a reason because they're fucking funnier than most people, right? So you got comedy writers that are funnier than most people who are given some jokes that are so that most people can't come up with on their own to actors who are funnier than most people. It gives you something to go look at. It gives you some. I mean, there is a reason why for so many decades we were happy to just sit around and quote comedies at each other, right? Because they were well written, they were funny, and all this shit. But then here comes Judd Apatow, where it's just like, okay, we're just gonna have Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd say funny things for about 5 minutes, and then we're just gonna cut shit out. And like the thing is, they're funny actors. They can be really fucking hilarious, but they're not necessarily like the best writers. So like the you know how I know you're gay, you listen to Coldplay. Like, is that funny? Yeah, that's pretty funny. I'll give you that. But it's no funnier than like what every like I could have come up with that, you know? So like you have Judd Apatow's comedies, and he was so dominant for so long, and all his movies were that sort of style caught on for everything because it was just like the style that was popular at the time. So for a long time, not only did you have like the dominance of like the MCU and all these franchise movies gaining prominence in the box office, but you had comedy movies that didn't give you anything in terms of value, right? They didn't like they weren't funnier than anything you got in real life. They didn't look anything different than what you got in real life. There was nothing style, there was no what your average like comedy scene from a Judd Apatow movie doesn't really feel that different than like a YouTube sketch or a TikTok sketch. So why go to the theaters for this for the same fucking experience? Like if this is just a bunch of fucking kind of funny people saying funny things at each other, like then what are we doing? you know? And I think that's another big thing that just it gets completely ignored. Like for a long time, the comedy movies that we made, just there was nothing much funny to them. And then like you got the whole thing with Judd Apatow. This is gonna be like a rant that I was gonna go on the Judd Apatow essay, but now I could just go on it here. The fucking thing with like, yeah, yes, the Mel Brooks style or the Zucker style comedies, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? But like the thing is about Judd Apatow is that like he's a cowardly director, just straight up. Because I remember back in the day, I loved his comedies back in the day, but they aged like milk. And I remember when he was on NPR or on podcasts, he would talk about his process, and he'd be like, "Yeah, so like we would show the movies to we show different cuts to the audience, and every single joke that got a laugh, like every single like improv bit that got a laugh, made it into the movie. He didn't cut any of them out for pacing or anything like that. So that's another reason why his movies just don't fucking age well. They're paced poorly. There's nothing cinematic about it, and they're just frankly not all that much funnier than most people. And that's the worst part, you know. Let's see. First Class is the closest they got to the X-Men movie should be. The third act falls apart, though. Honestly, would have benefited from a longer part. I agree. Yeah, but I haven't seen it for a while, but I don't remember the third act being that bad. It's one of the bro film directors, and his fans seem like extras that are trying to. Yeah, no, I could see that, and like in a lot of ways, he was to like Judd Apatow in the mid 2000s was to comedy movies, what Joe Rogan now is to like podcasts and shit. Just like he did this thing, it worked, and now everybody is sort of poisoning the well, trying to copy and replicate that shit. Fairly Brothers, their comedy only worked within a very specific time or rather age frame, although Judd's docs on Carlin is okay. I need to see those docs. I mean, Judd does like good work, man. It's just like I don't think he should be a director. I'm not a Will Ferrell fan. I'll be real with you guys. Okay, there's one Will Ferrell movie I like, and that's Talladega Nights. I can't. I'm not a big fan of anything else that he's made. Um, I mean, saying cinema sucks because the franchise is successful is bitching at this point. Just don't watch it if you're only going to generalize the hell of what you say is bad. Let's see. Beverly, you see that Dumb and Dumber is always yeah, exactly. To me, that movie's always going to be funny. You know. Um, Another reason why Seth Rogen doesn't get taken seriously in comic book and some of nerd culture. No, you know what? You're right. Like he brought Preacher. Right? I wasn't a big fan of it, but like people who liked that shit were into it. And let me see, School Fight had a lot bad jokes, like a rape. I forgot that movie even existed. But yeah, like he brought some serious like shit like that. Trading Place. What was the one I was looking for here? Yeah. Yeah, but like yeah, let's move on to another hot take here. See what's up on the list. See what is up on the list here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get some water because this one tends to get a lot of art house people a little bit angry. So give me just a second here. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. Freddy Got Fingered is one of the. You know what? I need to rewatch it, man, because I've been watching a lot of those video essays that reevaluate it, and I gotta agree there's merit to a lot of the shit they say. I need to rewatch it. Okay, this is gonna be a fun one. So as you guys know, I'm very much on the left side politically. I'm very critical of capitalism and shit like that. I'm not going to get into all of it right here, right now. It's just I want to say that because I believe that the best case against socialism and communism and pro capitalism is like Soviet era Russian cinema, man. Like I've seen Stalker, I've tried to watch Solaris, and I've seen Come and See, and all those fucking movies, every single last one of them. And yes, yeah, definitely, and every single last one of them could be cut down by like 50%. Like, and I know that's like really controversial to say, especially about like Come and See, but like, look, like that movie has powerful moments. It really does. Like the moments that the movie is famous for, like yeah, like they're very fucking powerful, very effective. However, everything outside of that is fucking boring as shit. Like I mean, come on, like there's that sequence where the guy is literally just like taking a photo and he's literally just being like, "Hey, can you take a step to the left real quick?" Hey, you like it goes on for like fucking. I swear, it feels like it goes on for like half an hour, but it's probably only like 5 minutes. Either way, 5 minutes is too fucking long. It doesn't need to be that long. You got that whole sequence where the boy and the girl are just running around the forest and the trees and it's nice and it's charming for about a minute, but it goes on for like 10. And it's like what I mean. It, I don't get it. I really don't. Then you have that story of I mean Tarkovsky. Jesus Christ, Tarkovsky is such a I get why there's so much respect and love for the guy. You know, I get it, but I also feel like maybe half of the people who claim to love Andrei Tarkovsky movies, I think they just don't want to look dumb. And again, I'm not saying that his movies are objectively bad or anything like that. If you love Andrei Tarkovsky movies, fucking great, good on you, awesome. The thing is, is that like when you read how some people describe what appeals to them about Andrei Tarkovsky, you can't help but be like, come on, man, like what is this? Like who you kidding? You know, like it's like hearing some people talk about why they like Andrei Tarkovsky is like listening to like Jada Pinkett Smith talk about anything. And like all right, so um wait, hold on. Give me just a second here. Yeah, like so one of the things that people often say about Tarkovsky is that like when you watch an Andrei Tarkovsky movie, your mind is left to wander as there's so little going on screen. You know, he hangs on every shot for so long that your mind is just able to wander and think about all these abstract things and all this shit. And it's like my brother in Christ, that's boredom. You're describing boredom. Yeah. If what's happening is on screen is so uninteresting that you're starting to like wonder about other bullshit, like you're bored. It doesn't matter if like you're thinking about like, oh, deep things, very philosophical things. No, like your mind is fucking just wandering. You know, the thing I like about his work was the ambiance he created in the zone. Yeah, no, like I look again. There's a lot of great moments in Tarkov when they actually get to the zone. Again, you can cut all that shit like down in half, like great. But then you have like the sequence before that in the labyrinth where it's literally just like so nondescript. And I get it, like that's the point. But also like it's one thing. Yes, it is one thing. You know, it's one thing for me to get the point, but just because I get the point doesn't mean I'm gonna like the movie, right? Like I get what he's doing. It's just like did you like you couldn't think of any other way of doing this. Did you really need to have like this many takes? So there's a story. There's this and this is a pretty good way to explain like just I don't get why people like talk about this dude like he's a fucking genius, right? This is the kind of like amateur bullshit that like Judd Apatow would do. But this is Andrei Tarkovsky. There's a sequence in Solaris, right? It's supposed to take place in the future. And it was made during Soviet Russia. They didn't really have the money for like a Blade Runner sort of thing, so they had to use their imagination. So to save money, um, in order to capture like a futuristic city, Andrei Tarkovsky took a trip out to Japan, took a taxi. The taxi drove him around, and compared to like Soviet Russia, Japan looked like the future. It did look like Blade Runner to them. So he essentially just drove around a cab and captured a bunch of footage of skyscrapers in downtown Tokyo and shit. And then because it was so expensive, it was the most expensive aspect of the entire production. He popped the blue filter on it to convey that it was the future and shit, you know. But because it was so expensive, he didn't want to waste a single cent of it. So instead of cutting it down for time and for rhythm and all that shit, he just put it all there, all of it. You see every single frame of his trip to Japan in the movie, and it stops the movie completely. And you can't tell me that there's purpose behind it. You can't tell me there's some grand vision behind it. He says it. I had all this footage. I didn't want to waste the money, so I put it all on screen. Dude, you can't fucking have that guy, okay, say that shit and then tell me that everything he fucking does is some intentional thing meant to spark the imagination. Okay, look, the guy has his merits. The guy definitely has his talents. All right, I'm not discounting that. And again, if you love his work, then fuck what I'm saying completely. But can we just be real here? Can we just cut the bullshit here, right? Because um a lot of people, another thing about Solaris is that like he made as a response to 2001. Like he hated Stanley Kubrick movies. So I'll admit maybe I'm a little biased here as like a Kubrick fan and all that shit, you know. But like, sorry, I lost the track with that. But I think what I was trying to say is that like, but like, I don't know, man. Like just something about it that a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it that just kind of just feels like kayfabe, like straight up pro wrestling kayfabe, you know. Um, let's see, most morning movie ever. Blade Runner in the sequel, while being technically greatly made, are bored. Okay, the first one, yes, I'll give you the first one, but the sequel, okay, the sequel to me is a good example of a slow burn, meditative movie. You know, later, Dari. Okay. Um, let's see. His work is boring that you end up acute mindful thinking meditation. So it might be the mood you are in when you watch it. So to be fair, perhaps two viewings before deciding. No, that's the thing. I watched Stalker like 3 times, wanting to like it. Wanting to enjoy it, wanting to see what other people see in it, dude. But like each time that I watched Tarkovsky, I fell asleep. Every time that I watched Solaris, I fell asleep during different times. So I eventually saw the whole movie, but just it was just wasn't for me, you know. Dark Knight is B tier, good, but totally well. I mean, like in general, but I don't think I've seen you around here before in Decent Master. Hi, but like Nolan in general is just kind of B tier because like his movies, like I said before, the first time you see a Christopher Nolan movie, it's like fucking peak cinema. But then when you, for me at least, every time I watch a Nolan movie for repeat viewings, it just kind of feels like I don't know, defensive. It's hard to explain. I've talked about it before though. I have a whole video essay about it if you want to check it out. Are we saying I'm okay going to grave having missed? Yes, in my opinion. If me describing Solaris is boring to you, then watching it is going to be even worse. You know. But I do relate because I have similar feelings towards Andy Kaufman. I love weird comedy, but it's just like his approach to weird comedy was just doing a weird thing, and that's it. Not to mention that creepy as heck woman wrestling. So yeah, no, that's true. That is a whole thing. And you know what? I think there is like merit to that because there is, like I said, man, like there needs art isn't just arbitrarily doing wacky shit. There needs to be some sort of intention and vision behind it. Making 240 FPS slow mo films. I'm doing that and MA in it. And I find Tarkovsky to be pretentious. So, that's funny. Go ahead, go ahead. Oh, right here. Sorry. No, yeah, no, wow, that's funny. That is fucking funny. So that means that you capture like so. When you, for anyone who doesn't know, when you shoot in high frame rate, when you run it back at like 24 frames per second, that's how you get that like incredibly slow mo and shit like that. Uh, that's funny. Kubrick films are more realistically gritty because sometimes the killer is just some teenage girl with a rifle. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Yeah, yeah. No, I gave Tarkovsky a shot. All right, a serious shot. Nolan is a cool the first time director. Chris can't cut Nolan, master of crossing the line. That's very true. But I think that's also like a choice, you know. I like 80s canon. Yeah, that's legit, man. There's a lot of really good 80s canon movies. And a funny mass talking to like something old. 8x slow, but that's still pretty slow though. I think it's better than the original. Don't get me wrong. The third movie is far from perfect, but it was a lot more engaging and enjoyable than the first one. I think I've only seen the first two. Give me just a second. Not hot take. The first is the best. No, I mean, let me see here. Uh, no, sir. The first. No, I disagree, man. I disagree. Like, I mean, again, like I'm not a fan of like arbitrary shit in movies, and that sort of enhanced scene just goes on for way too long, and it's sort of emblematic of my over. Okay, no, I see what you did there. Okay, my bad. Canon Ninja Trilogy and American Ninja Series. All yeah, I think you told me about that. I think Vinegar Syndrome put it out. I that's funny. That's a good one. Hell, what about Ralph Bakshi? Just watched. What Ralph Bakshi have I seen? I can't tell you which Ralph Bakshi I've seen. Is one of my all time favorite. Yeah, no, that's legit. That's legit. But it's funny because what was it? Thanksgiving. I was talking to my nieces and my nephews, and they're all big Mario fans and stuff like that, and they were talking about the Mario movie. So I was like, "Did you guys?" I was telling them about like the original one from the '90s and shit, and they couldn't believe what I was saying. So I was like, "No, dude, seriously, look, that's what Bowser used to look like. That's," and at some point, like my nephew Junior just says, "That is the dumbest thing I have ever seen." And like I just never like he's getting older now, so like you're so I'm seeing like different sides of the kid as they get older and shit. Like and it was funny them being like, I think that's the first time any of them like, I think found out that bad movies exist. So that's interesting. But like they were a little bit fascinated and shit, and that was kind of fun. Um, Let me see here. Here's my response to watching the 24-hour Psycho. Uh, I remixed the remix. It was back to the original. Did somebody say 80s Canada movies like Cronenberg stuff? Let's see. I think I have a couple more hot takes here to get through. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. All right. Here's a big one. Here's a big one. Uh here's okay. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do three more. I'm gonna do three more hot takes. Then I'm gonna call it a night here. And I'm gonna go, I think, from warmest to hottest here. Okay. So let's start with the warmest one. Okay. Uh I really hate that like indie movies are a style and an aesthetic, right? Like I hate that like there was that really lame and like this is gonna sound really shitty, right? Considering like the state of cinema now, but like one of the good things that like the streaming era did is that it gave a better home for all these movies. Like God, what's a good example here? Like there's this movie like paper there's this Michael Cera movie with what's her name, Charlene Yee, called Paper Hearts, which is like this fake documentary story about like love. It's so like cutesy and twee and shit. Like it's like a like if a trust fund baby playing a ukulele, like that were a movie. Like there was a whole period of time where a lot of, yes, that's another one too. Mumblecore was the dumbest phenomenon, with the exception of like two movies. One of them I'm making a video essay on, but yes, with the exception of like two movies, Mumblecore was the dumbest fucking phenomenon ever. Like those movies were so like uniformly bad. They were all the same fucking movie too, because they were coming from like the same fucking like 10 people and shit. I mean, some of those have gone on to make better movies, but yeah. Hot Rod was really bad. It took itself too seriously, and the stepdad subplot was. I love Hot dude. I love Hot Rod. So I'm gonna give that a 10 out of 10 hot take, but that's a hard disagree for me. I love those fucking Lonely Island movies and shit. But yeah, indie movies should never be an aesthetic. Like it should never be a style. It should only describe how a movie got made. And it should only describe how like super original and bold and unique and personal movies get made. Instead of like, like Sundance is cool, but like I feel like it's created like a Sundance movie, which is just like a really low budget big studio movie. And those are the ones that like often like do the best there. Just sort of like low budget, small scale, like Tom Hanks dramas and shit, and like and then you had like the whole. I feel like there's a whole like the whole 2000s, the whole indie scene was like, oh, a guy who couldn't get over his girlfriend like got a fucking budget, like so many indie movies were just like these whack fucking like romantic comedies that are clearly just like a dude like like writing like his breakup or where he wins every fight or some bullshit, like Chasing Amy is an example of that. Like that movie, like when I was a kid, that movie worked so well, but like now it's just like Jesus Christ, what? Come on, man. What happened to Dogma 95 filmmaking? I enjoyed the nuttiness of those. Well, I mean, what happened was none of them could keep their word. They all broke their fucking the Dogma 95 rules. So I think at some point, like everybody just kind of moved on except for Large Von Trier. This is a hot take, but Cameron has become like Zack Snyder's story takes a far back. Okay, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think like, I just think that like Cameron is a better narrative director over all around, which kind of does a lot of heavy lifting, in my opinion. But like yeah, like I really, really dislike how indie movies tend to become like these sort of just trends, like that's a bummer. And it's sad because like the first like 3 decades of indie cinema before like Sundance crystallized the formula and shit, like those were wild, those were great. We got a lot of really awesome shit back in the day, but now I feel like a lot of film festivals and the indie scene is just kind of churning out like really basic character dramas that very rarely take a lot of risks, and that's a bummer. So that's gonna be the warm take. Let's go to my mid take here. No, I'm gonna get some water here because I think it's gonna piss off the most people so far until the last one. All right, but I don't like time loop movies. Like I really, really don't like time loop movies. I've never indie films sometimes feel like films made for white privilege class. Give me, yeah, exactly. Very good. That's a very goddamn good point right there, dude. That is a great point. Yeah, you're right, man. But yeah, so I don't like time loop movies. Not even I've tried to watch Groundhog's Day, couldn't get through it. The last time loop movie. Whoa, Looper is garbage, dude. Stay tuned. I love that movie. I wouldn't consider that movie a time loop movie either, though. That's the thing. I think it's about people who I don't like. I tried to sit through Groundhog Day, bro. I just can't do it, man. Like to me, the problem with time loop movies is that like they're on the nose by design. Like there's no. It's kind of going back to like the Toy Story thing, right? Like to me, time loop movies could only go one way. Could only explore what's one thing in one way. Like of course, in a time loop movie, you're gonna have a character who the metaphor of experiencing the same day every day is about making the same mistakes, and then they have to fucking learn from their mistakes, and then once they learn their mistakes the next day, and it's all like I just can't like, yeah, I know like this is gonna be the most unpopular one so far, But no, dude, I can't. I've never been able to sit through Groundhog Day. I like time loop movies in like 30-minute sitcoms, occasionally in 1 hour long sitcoms. But like in the movie form, it just drags on for too long, and to the point where it just kind of becomes obvious. Where like I'm just waiting, like, okay, in the next scene, there's going to be incremental character development, and then slightly more incremental to character development. Yep, and then some more. Okay, like it's just like you just every scene becomes about the same thing, and I just can't get behind it. I just and I feel like I'm missing out because people like everybody tells me Groundhog's Day is amazing, but like I can't get through it, man. I can't get through it, and it ain't for me. All right, and this is gonna be probably I'll give you two more short ones, and then like the big one at the end, right? Whoever directed The Idol doesn't know shit about real Grammy drug taking and dealing is really done is well, I mean it was directed by it was directed by the guy who made uh Euphoria. So it makes sense. He's a Barry Levinson's son, something Levinson. What about I didn't I never watch I don't really watch them, man. I kind of avoid them to be honest. You need to watch the Mexican film Time Crimes. Best I think I've seen Time Crimes. I'm pretty sure I've seen Time Crimes. Yeah. No, I think I saw it on Hulu back in the day. Let me see. Not a hot take. The show's incompetent from start to finish. Again, like I don't watch time loop movies or anything like that. No, I haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire. But I'm down to watch it. I'm down to watch it, Lindsay, if you want to watch it. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, okay. So here's another hot take. All right. Let's start with the lukewarm one, and then we'll go out with again some hot ones here. But most movies don't need to be in 4K. That's just I'm going to be straight up. The majority of movies don't really need to be in 4K. Like to me, what makes a good 4K movie is a movie with a very distinct visual style. The two great benefits of 4K is the added resolution and the added color detail. And a lot of movies definitely take advantage of that wide color gamut because they're shot with all this flair with great cinematography. But those are like very rare, very rare. Most movies are just shot pretty competently, so they don't take the fullest advantage of what 4K brings as a medium. I mean, what is it bad for the environment at this point? Like, at least I don't do crypto. Let's put it that way. And I drive a Prius once I get it repaired. But what was I saying? Yeah, like most movies actually don't need to be in 4K. But movies that should be in 4K, and let's put it this way: the further we go back in time, the more movies that are generally made should be in 4K. Like I'm really looking forward to getting Close Encounters of the Third Kind on 4K. And yes, dude, 100%, 100% Barry Lyndon needs to be in 4K. Horror work better with the lo-fi aesthetic. What? Yep, totally true. It's not bad for the environment. 1080 is not 10, and so I mean, most of the time I do buy a 1080. Let's just put it that way. I'll admit that guys does come off like a real drug experience person just from the whole bougie nightclubbing type. I grew up with actual crackheads slanged around. Yeah, that's the thing about Sam Levinson, man, is that he tries to like write those stories when he's experienced clearly all of it from a much more privileged perspective. All right, so here's another one that's a little more broad scale. A lot of people get mad at me about this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get these two things out of the way. I two qualifiers, right? Subs over dubs, just period, all around. Subs over dubs, all right, flat out. If you absolutely need subtitles to understand a movie, and all that stuff, like if you absolutely need subtitles because you have like hearing problems or you got loud ass kids or all that shit, like okay, understandable. If you absolutely need it, if you just put it on by default, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? Because like for a long time, I would watch everything with subtitles, absolutely everything. It was like compulsory. Put subtitles on, make sure it's on, and then enjoy the show, whatever. But like at some point, I realized that my eyes kept getting drawn to the screen unnecessarily. It's one thing when it's like a foreign film, and I want to respect the performance, and I want to take it in for what it is. But like when you're watching something in your own language and it's a professionally made show, like as long as you have like the right stereo output on all their streaming services like figured out, like all these movies and TV shows are professionally mixed and mastered. Like they're all made by people who know what they're doing, you know? And they're also labored on by people who have very specific sound design that is mixed a very specific way. And I've noticed that like ever since I stopped putting on subtitles compulsively, like it makes me lean in and it makes me pay so much more attention to the sound. And and in doing so, like I've gained such a much higher appreciation for good sound design. And look, if you're if you're really paranoid about not understanding every single word that comes out of your mouth, all right, comes out of the mouths of the people talking in the movie. Look, think about it like this: if a movie falls apart, if you miss a couple lines here or there, the movie has way bigger problems than the audio. I mean, yeah, like way bigger problems than that. Like there's some serious structural writing shit that is, all bad. So if you absolutely need subtitles or if you're watching a foreign film, watch stuff with subtitles. But if it's compulsory, I challenge you to to just leave them off and pay really close attention. Dude, yeah, most like honestly, Looper. I know you don't like Looper, but Looper's sound design is incredible. And music as well. Yeah, and also what's happening on the screen. Right. Here's another thing. Like I have a fix for making subtitles better. One of the biggest problems with subtitles is that it's always like center bottom of the screen. So your eye is always drawn in it, and it takes your eye off of where the cinematographer and director want you to pay attention and all that. Um and so, like, yeah, it's unnatural. And I honestly feel like a lot of foreign films should experiment with where they put subtitles so that it's more natural with like the composition of the film because it can be very, very distracting in ways that aren't that can't hurt the experience sometimes. And yeah, no, I watch everything or everything that like I watch alone. I watch with my PS5 headphones, and it's such a great experience. I like, yeah, especially if we got surround sound, but I need to watch that movie. I definitely need to watch that movie. Okay. All right, guys. Now we're gonna go ahead and get to my biggest hot take here. And the West has the greatest sound design ever. All right, yeah. But let's see. It's bad here, and I'm getting in the habit of reading the screen too. Well, I mean, yeah. If can't hear well, that's yeah. You know. But here we go. My hottest take here, and I think it's the hottest one that I could at least think of, the most controversial one is Jurassic Park fans are on the whole way less toxic and way more mature than Star Wars fan. And I think there's some very specific reasons for that, right? But like, oh, dude, horror movies in general, have like great sound design. Even like the most mediocre ones often are like punching above their weight when it comes to that. But yeah, like I believe, and I listen, I love Star Wars. Okay, I consider myself a Star Wars fan, and I was one of those guys who back in the day would like fucking talk your ear off about like how bad the prequels were if we ever were like if I was allowed to and shit, like so I say this is being on both sides here. All right, because like if you look at like the Jurassic World movies and the sequel trilogy, like they have the same trajectory. The first movie is like basically a remake of the original. It's super safe. And everybody responds to it very well, but everybody walks away being like, "This is super unoriginal. We need new shit." Second movie, they bring in an auteur director who does a lot of crazy shit, and it's a very divisive movie. Um, and it sort of like divides the fan base a little bit. And then your third movies are like super overblown, messy, sloppy, kind of like uh they're the kind of movies that the directors didn't really want to make or were planning on making and shit. And like the difference between like Star Wars and Jurassic Park fans, I think it's twofold. I think one is that like Jurassic Park as a series are movies that encourage people to think critically. Like if you engage with Jurassic Park, if yes, you get it, 100%. Yeah, we talked about this, but but yeah, like Jurassic Park, if you engage with it on even like the most basic thematic level, is it's about like mistakes. It's about hubris. It's about like a failure of critical analysis. It's about getting like the dangers of getting swept up in the moments and leaving and checking your brain off and shit. It's movies that encourage you to like, hey, think about stuff. Like think critically, and it's also a movie that inspired so many people to become actual scientists. Like paleontology gets a huge boost every time a Jurassic movie comes out. Like these are movies that even like the silliest ones, right? Like there's still movies that have like a basis in inspiring the imagination and making people think about stuff. Star Wars is all power fantasy. It's all power fantasy. Like to some extent, it makes sense why so many Star Wars fans think the way they do because Star Wars is about like, hey, you like that you kid who's like a total nobody and like a little annoying and you live in a small town that no one's ever heard of. You are secretly the most powerful person in the fucking universe. Ain't that fucking badass? Go beat up your dad. Like if these are movies that just kind of like they're great movies. Don't get me wrong. They're fantastic movies and they have their own, themes that they tread on, family, legacy, cycles of abuse and all that shit. It's all there. I'm not saying that Star Wars are shallow movies with nothing to offer thematically, but like at its core, the appeal of Star Wars is, hey, like you're secretly the most powerful person ever. That's come here, watch this shit. Like it's a different sort of vibe, and yeah, and that's pretty much. Let's see. I'm glad. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping this would be a little bit more controversial, but it's good to see that it's good to see everybody agrees here. Uh, Both books will know this. I read Jurassic Park last year. I should read The Lost World. I have the Barnes and Noble double set. If you know what I'm talking about. I don't think that's a hot take at all. Jurassic were never obsessed to the point they considered some sort of religion. I mean, it would be a pretty solid religion though. I'd worship T Rex. There a planned crossover between Fast and Furious and Jurassic Park. I heard there is. I hope it happens. I think that'd be fun as shit, like a Godzilla versus Kong type of fucking team up. I think the Jurassic Park should have ended after the first one, maybe end after the Lost World, but that's like it. Every other film is just a cash grab. I think Fallen Kingdom has some genuine artistry to it, and I think like Jurassic World has some pretty solid. I think every movie has like something to offer, and it's fun in its own way. But Dominion is just terrible. It has like one good scene. Theme music speaks for itself. Yeah, definitely. I okay. I gotta say, I just love the Jurassic. I just like Jurassic Park more as a franchise. Uh, Although Jurassic World waited to have the old cast return in the third movie, where the sequel trilogy did that much earlier. Yeah, and I think they paid for it, frankly. Um, uh, Need a sequel to the franchise. I kind of hate the idea of Jurassic World because it's a slap to the face of the story's original theme. The park, yeah, I know, right? Like, but that's so weird. Like, that's the point of Jurassic World, but the movie doesn't do anything with it. Fast and Furious when they went into space, it reminded me of holding a Hot Wheels in my hand and flying. Yeah, I think that's again, I think that's part of the appeal too. I think that's why it's pure fun, right? Like in a weird way, the Fast and Furious franchise is kind of like wholesome, dealing with space magic as a colonized person, monarchy support. Yeah, that's true. Had actual science ideas and actual like science themes. And yeah, guys, that's it. Those are my hot takes. Thank you guys so much for sharing yours, man. Like that was a lot of fun to read. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night here. Thank you everyone in the chat. Yeah, no, 100% a lazy approach, 100%. But like, yeah, thank you everyone in the chat for stopping by. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if you're watching this and you haven't done so already. Until next time here. Peace.